Good afternoon, gamers. Today we will be talking about sensitivity. Probably one of the deepest conversation topics in aiming and in any game has always been what's the perfect sense, what's this and what's that. And today we're going to cover everything about sensitivity, everything there is to know about sensitivity. So hello everyone, I am Zeke and welcome to my series Aim Fundamentals. Today's episode, like I said, will be sensitivity. So let's get started. Now, basic thing on sensitivity, you have your ranges, right? You have high sense gamers, low sense gamers, and you have middle, right? The way sensitivity in just a general baseline works is, for anyone that doesn't know, because we're covering basics, it is basically how sensitive your mouse is to movements. Okay, so let's talk. Okay, let's talk about is there a perfect sensitivity? And the objective answer to that is no. There will never be a perfect sensitivity because sensitivity is very, very subjective. You know, for heavy-handed people, people that aren't as heavy-handed, your mouse weight, your mouse shape, your mouse grip, all of that contribute, your mouse pad even, all of that contributes to how sensitive a mouse feels. For example, this here is the Logitech G303 and this here is the G Pro, right? This is a very light, like a much lighter mouse than that. If I'm playing a sensitivity of 30 centimeters / 360, for anyone that doesn't know what I'm saying when I'm saying centimeters / 360, it is basically how many centimeters I need to move my mouse to do a 360. That's the terminology we're going to be using today for sense. Let's say I'm using a sensitivity that is 30 centimeters / 360, and I'm using the G Pro. It is going to feel faster than if I was to use the G303. And why is that? That is purely because of the weight difference. Now let's just say I have a fingertip grip compared to a claw grip, compared to a palm grip. On all three of those grips, 30 centimeters / 360 will feel different. So objectively, there is no such thing as a perfect sensitivity. It is all what you are comfortable in and what type of game you are playing. In terms of a game that is based on the genre of tactical FPS. So tactical FPS would be games such as Valorant, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six Siege, any game that's got a low TTK. You will notice that a lot of the pros prefer to have a higher CM/360, aka a lower sensitivity. Why is that? Because a lower sensitivity, there's less room for error because your mouse isn't as sensitive. And you'll notice with games like Apex Legends, Overwatch, Quake, there's other sides of the spectrum. People will be tending to use a higher sensitivity because there is more movement involved, a higher TTK for more tracking, and that benefits it. So, if we were to say how to find your perfect sense, now the perfect sensitivity for you as an individual comes from this. So the way I recommend everyone does it, there's two ways you can do it. Okay, one way is the way I prefer and the way I recommend people do it. What I'll suggest is load up an aim trainer, such as Kovacs, or AimLab, whichever one you tend to use. Kovacs is an aim trainer that does cost money, however has more advanced techniques and ability to do more things on it, whereas AimLabs is a free alternative, which is also good. So what I would recommend is pick a range. Okay, let's just say 25 centimeters / 360, which is quite high, to something like 50 cm/360. Pick a range and go through aim trainings, go through different scenarios such as static, dynamic, and tracking. Go through and find the sensitivity range that allows you to use your arm, your wrist, and your fingers in one action. Right, what I mean by that is if I'm playing on a sense such as 25 centimeters and I'm doing a scenario, what I might notice is that I am only using my wrist and my fingers. My arm is barely being used with aiming. Okay, so then that I get that information, I write that down. Then I go to the opposite side of the spectrum where I go to about, let's just say, hypothetically, 35 centimeters. Right, so that's a 10 centimeter difference. I then notice that I am now using my arm and my wrist. However, I am not using my fingers anymore as much. That will be my range. Alright, so let's just say I have a range of 25 to 35. That is the highest. So let's just say I will then load up a game. Right, so that is my range of sensitivity for me. I will then load up a game, and I will go through those sensitivities from, let's just say, 25 to 35 centimeters slash 360, and find a sense that feels comfortable to me. If that sense feels nice, and it is smooth, it is very good to play on, and I'm comfortable and confident with it, I would suggest stick to that sensitivity. Maybe you can change it up every day by a little bit, by micro corrections on your sensitivity, but never drastic changes, and master it from there. Now let's jump into a game. I'll load up something like Apex, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by this. Okay, as you can see, guys, now we're in game. Now let's talk about sensitivity here. So what I meant by that, to sum it up and I'll actually show it instead of just telling you guys about it, is what you'll see. In a close range fight, as you can see, I'm using my wrist, and then I'm using sort of like my fingers. Sorry, I used my fingers a bit too much there. But if I was to go to a target here, I'm using my wrist, and consecutively I'm using my fingers to A, control the recoil, and also micro-correct up to the bottom. That is all my fingers. I'm correcting the recoil with my fingers, and doing that. Now, with arm as well, like if I'm finding a target, so let's say I'm looking here and I get shot from behind. I use my arm to find the target, and we beam him. Right, I use my arm to find the target, and I beam. So that's how you want to be incorporating, and you can do that on any sense. But for example, I play 800 1.7, right, which is around 30 centimeters slash 360. If I was to go to a crazy high sense such as 4, right, bear in mind I'm not going to be able to control this. It is very quick. Now you'll notice that I don't even, to do a 180, I'm no longer using my arm. My arm is not being used to do a 180 here. It is purely my wrist. Right? I can still beam with it, but it is purely my wrist. And this is a sense that I don't recommend. This is how high you go, because you're not using your arm anymore. So that would be, the range that I was talking about, where I've stopped using my arm now. I'm completely using my wrist and fingers. So I wouldn't do that. But thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like and a subscribe, and go follow all my socials. And until the next episode, keep aiming.